It started with smoke and a slap. Pepper soup burned on the fire, and with it, a girl's childhood. They said she'd learn her place, scrubbing floors, carrying wood, swallowing grief like medicine. Every night, she folded her pain beneath her mother's old scarf, waiting for a dong that never came. But when the Oba's gong thundered through Ede, calling for a queen to rise, the same girl they buried in chores stood up. Before she wore a crown, she carried the weight of a kingdom that forgot her. Her name is Aderonke, the ash girl who rose from dust to throne. Welcome to Chisa's Tales of Africa.
Aderonke's first memory of her stepmother is smoke, pepper soup burning, while Morenike slapped the pestle into the mortar and hissed, "You'll learn your place." After Aderonke's mother died, her father, Bayo the carpenter, remarried quickly, and the house shifted on its hinges. Morenike brought her own daughter, Simi, and the chores doubled like shadows at noon. Aderonke scrubbed floors with salt water, rose before the roosters, and carried planks for her father's workshop until her palms became maps of blisters. Bayo tried to balance the home, but trade kept him on the road. "Be patient," he would whisper, slipping gari into her hand. "Storms don't last." Then one market day, he did not return. News arrived like a broken gourd, an accident on the river road. Morenike became rain and thunder in the same body. She locked Aderonke's clothes, gave Simi the best room, and announced to neighbors that the orphan girl would work for her keep. Aderonke swallowed her grief and folded it carefully, the way she folded her mother's headscarf at night.
The token fit her palm like a secret. On one face, the beaded crown of Ede. On the other, a faded inscription, "Oke lineage, artisans of truth." Aderonke remembered stories of her mother's people who once carved ceremonial stools for kings. She slipped the token into her scarf. In the morning, she asked carefully, "Mama Morenike, may I go to the palace trials?" Moreneke's spoon paused midair. "Trials?" she said, slow and sweet. "For what? Kitchen queen?" Simi laughed until her earrings danced. "You'll be needed here," Morenike added. "Our stall must shine. Your hands are useful." Aderonke opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. She learned long ago that arguing with Morenike was like throwing stones at the wind. That afternoon, she visited Mama Tayo, the neighbor who smelled of shea butter and stories. When Aderonke showed her the token, the old woman gasped. "Your mother's blood carried dignity," she whispered. "This token is an invitation, maybe from long ago, but the seal is still the seal." Mama Tayo pressed a folded cloth into Aderonke's hands, a simple cream wrapper and a blue blouse. "You'll need courage more than silk." On the eve of the trials, Aderonke washed the clothes, spread them to dry, and hid the token under the mat. At dawn, she woke to Simi's shriek. "Mama, come and see!" Morenike stood over a basin, Aderonke's clothes slicing under her scissors. "Rags suit rags," she said, smiling as threads fell like rain. Aderonke's knees went weak. Mama Tayo's gift lay ruined. As Aderonke wiped her tears, a knock came at the gate. Palace messengers, asking for Oke lineage by token. Two palace messengers stood tall in indigo wrappers, fingers resting on carved staffs. "We seek the bearer of the Oke token," the older one announced. Morenike stepped forward smoothly. "No such person here," she said. "Perhaps another compound." The younger messenger's gaze slid past her to Aderonke, who clutched her scarf. "Sister," he said gently, "do you carry what we seek?" Aderonke's throat tightened. Morenike's eyes dared her to speak. Mama Tayo's voice drifted from across the fence. "Child, truth is a seed. Plant it." Aderonke lifted the token. The older messenger nodded. "You are summoned to the palace courtyard before midday." Morenike's jaw set. "She has chores." The messenger held up a parchment stamped with the royal seal. "By the Oba's order, all invitations outrank chores."
With the ruined clothes and no time to borrow, Aderonke wrapped herself in her plainest attire and followed. At the palace gate, the crowd surged, beads, lace, perfume, laughter like clinking brass. Simi swept in with Morenike, dripping ornaments. "Look at who came," Simi smirked. "The Ash Girl." Inside the courtyard, drums rolled. From a balcony draped in coral, Oba Ajani appeared, eyes calm as lagoon water. "Today we test for character," he said, "not for beauty." The first trial began. Candidates had to assist palace workers preparing a community feast. No servants allowed. Aderonke joined silently, carrying yams, organizing lines, and helping an old guard tie his wrapper. The Oba watched. "Your name?" he asked. "Aderonke, daughter of Beo the carpenter," she said, bowing. A hiss sliced the air. Morenike, whispering to a guard. Two guards approached Aderonke from behind. "By order of the palace you are to leave now," one said. "A complaint has been lodged." "A complaint?" Aderonke repeated, heart plunging. The guard read from a small slate. "Accused of imposture, a servant posing as a maiden." Murmurs rippled. Morenike folded her arms, lips pursed in pity. Simi's eyes gleamed. The Oba leaned forward. "Who makes this claim?" The steward pointed. "Lady Morenike of Ayeye Market." Aderonke raised her token with trembling fingers. "My mother's lineage received royal recognition," she said, voice steadying. The steward examined it closely, then called an elderly archivist. The man's eyes misted. "This is real and old. The Oki artisans carved the throne in my father's time." The steward bowed to the Oba. "Complaint, unproven." The Oba's gaze touched Aderonke again. Curiosity, not softness. "Continue the trial," he ordered. But Morenike was not finished. Near the yam heaps, she slipped a leather pouch into a guard's hand. "Make the Ash Girl stumble," she whispered. The second phase required candidates to organize the distribution of food to villagers waiting outside the palace. Order, fairness, speed. Aderonke sketched routes with charcoal and taught others to stagger loads. It worked. Lines moved like river currents. Then confusion. One stack of plantains went missing, and fingers pointed at Aderonke. The bribed guard shouted, "Thief!" Aderonke's chest tightened. "Search me," she said, lifting her wrapper ends. Nothing. The crowd buzzed. The steward frowned. "Hold her for questioning," he ordered. Morenike's smile bloomed like night jasmine. As Aderonke was led away, the Oba raised his hand. "Bring the accuser and the guard to my chamber," he said, voice suddenly sharp. The interrogation room was cool, dust motes drifting through a slit of light. Aderonke sat straight, hands clasped. The steward questioned the guard first. He stammered, then settled into his lie. "I saw her hide plantains under her wrapper." The Oba's eyebrow lifted. "Then where are they?" Silence. The archivist stepped forward with a ledger. "We halted the supply earlier due to a miscount. There were never plantains in that pile." The guard blinked, confused that his lie found no floor to stand on. The steward turned to Morenike. "Why bring this complaint?" Morenike pressed her hand to her chest. "I only protect the palace from shame." The steward's gaze cooled. "Or from truth." The guard shifted. Sweat beaded his neck. Aderonke rose. "Your Majesty," she said softly, "the truth will not fight for me if I abandon it." The Oba studied her. "Who are you when no one is watching?" he asked. "A daughter who still sets an extra plate for a father who won't come home. A neighbor who shares salt when there is none. A girl who still believes fairness is not foolishness." The silence that followed had weight. Then the guard broke. "She bribed me,"
he blurted, pointing at Morenike. Gasps leapt. Morenike's face hardened. "You will regret this," she hissed to Aderonke. The Oba nodded to the steward. "Remove this guard from duty. Lady Morenike will face penalty." Morenike's chin rose. "Before you punish me, ask her who her real father is." The room froze. Aderonke's breath stalled as Morenike smiled, slow and poisonous.
Morenike folded her arms. "Everyone knows Bayo was often away," she said. "Ask around. The girl doesn't even look like him." Pain flashed across Aderonke's face, but she stood her ground. "My father is the man who claimed me, not the gossip that denies me." The archivist cleared his throat. "There are ways to anchor truth." He dispatched a scribe to Aderonke's old compound. Hours later, the scribe returned with a small tin box found wedged beneath the roof beam of Bayo's workshop. Inside lay a letter, brittled with years, sealed with wax. The steward read, "To my daughter Aderonke, if my voice cannot reach you, let this do it. You carry my name and my stubbornness. Should anyone doubt, know that I chose you, twice, when grief asked me to look away. Bayo." Ink smudges trailed like tears. Aderonke swallowed hard. "He used to say storms don't last," she whispered. The Oba's expression softened by a degree. "The palace judges what is done, not the thickness of a rumor," he said. He turned to Morenike. "You lied, and you bribed. Your fine is service. 1 month at the palace kitchens, under the steward's eye." Simi gasped. "Mama?" Morenike's lips pressed thin. She lowered her eyes, but only for the room. Outside, the drums had already resumed. The trials waited. The steward returned Aderonke's token. "There remains one final selection," he announced. "Each maiden must present a plan to uplift the most vulnerable, widows, orphans, the displaced, then defend it before the council." The Oba's gaze found Aderonke again. "We are not shopping for a face," he said quietly. "We are choosing a heart." As Aderonke walked toward the courtyard, rain gathered in a dark knot over Ede, and a runner arrived, shouting, "The river is rising!" The courtyard changed from ceremony to urgency. Thunder rolled as the river swelled, creeping toward the outer huts. The steward looked at the Oba. The Oba looked at the candidates. "Your plans must stand now, when people are ankle-deep in trouble." Some maidens shrank behind their umbrellas. Aderonke stepped forward. "My plan begins with kitchens," she said, voice firm over the rain. "Central pots on dry ground where anyone can eat without shame. Then work lists, able hands helping those who cannot climb. Finally, a ledger of lost homes, so rebuilding is fair." A counselor scoffed. "Big dreams from a girl with no room of her own." Aderonke met his gaze. "I have learned to stretch small rooms." The Oba's mouth twitched, the shadow of approval. Water licked the first compounds. Palace gongs sounded. "Enough talk! Lead!" He pointed to the maidens. "Go with the chiefs to the riverfront. Do what you said you would do." Aderonke ran. She tied cloth flags to mark paths, ordered young men to carry the elderly, and set children to ferry cooking pots up the slope. She found Mama Tayo, coughing from the damp, and wrapped her in a dry cloth. "Stubborn child," the old woman murmured, smiling weakly. "Go, others need you." Across the flood, Aderonke spotted Simi and Morenike stranded on a sinking patch, panic widening their eyes. Simi screamed, "Help us!" Aderonke hesitated, pain and memory battling duty. Then she shouted to the paddlers, "Turn there!" As the canoe swung toward them, a collapsing palm crashed into the water, tossing waves that dragged Morenike under. Aderonke dove before anyone could stop her. The water was mud and roar. She grabbed cloth, then arm, then hair, anything. Fingers found Morenike's wrist and pulled until lungs burned. Hands from the canoe lifted both women, coughing and gasping, back into the world. Morenike lay on the floor of the canoe, choking, eyes glassy with shock. You came for me," she whispered.
Aderonke nodded, shivering. We pull people out, even when they pushed us in. Back on high ground, she wrapped Morenike and Simi with blankets. Villagers gathered at the flagged paths, dripping, but safe. Volunteer lines formed. Cooking fires flickered under makeshift roofs. Mama Kayo supervised a pot with a wooden spoon like a scepter. "Eat first, argue later," she commanded. By evening, the river bowed its head and retreated. The courtyard filled with smoky light and tired smiles. The Oba walked through the camp quietly, speaking to elders and children, listening to names of those still missing. When he reached Aderonke, she was kneeling to bandage a boy's ankle. He waited until she finished. "You spoke of kitchens and ledgers? You gave us both." One counselor still frowned. "But lineage matters," he muttered. "Tradition demands the first wife's daughter." The archivist sighed. "Tradition also demands wisdom." The Oba's voice cut through. "Tomorrow, at sunrise, we decide." He looked at Aderonke. "Rest." She nodded, but sleep would not come. She lay under the stars, listening to the river breathe. Before dawn, Simi crept to her mat and whispered, trembling, "If you become queen, what will you do to my mother?" Morning cane light painted the palace walls. The council gathered in a circle of carved stools. The air tasted of palm oil and debate. Chiefs spoke in turns, some for lineage, some for merit. The Oba listened, fingers steepled. Aderonke waited in the antechamber, Simi beside her, twisting a bead until it snapped. "I'm sorry," Simi blurted, "for laughing, for the dress, for all of it. Mama, she is who she is." Aderonke studied her. "Who will you be?" Simi swallowed. "Maybe someone who cooks at the kitchens?" Aderonke reached for her hand. "We can always begin again." A guard called Aderonke into the hall. Her feet felt like drums as she entered. The Oba's gaze was unreadable. "Aderonke, daughter of Bayo, we have questions." They questioned her plan's cost, its accountability, its reach beyond flood seasons. Aderonke answered plainly, "We will publish the ledger at the palace gate. If even one name is missing, let the town crier shame us. We will train widows to run the kitchens. We will pair apprentices with carpenters to rebuild." A quiet fell. Then the dissenting chief tried once more. "But she is not from the first wife," he insisted. The archivist stood, voice thin but strong. "Our laws were made to protect justice, not to block it. When was the last time a rule bowed to compassion? Today could be that day." The Oba rose. "Enough." He turned to Aderonke. "If chosen, what will you do first?" She did not hesitate. "I will visit the poorest compound with the biggest pot." The Oba's lips curved. The gong sounded 3 times. The Oba lifted the beaded crown and paused. The courtyard packed with breath and bodies. Sunlight spilled like blessing. The Oba spoke, each word measured. "Ede needs a queen whose hands know water and fire, whose heart lifts strangers, whose truth stands when gossip tries to kneel it. By the will of council and the oath of the throne, I choose Aderonke, daughter of Bayo, as queen." A roar rose, drums, ululations, the sharp clap of relief. Aderonke closed her eyes as if steadying on a moving boat, then stepped forward. The crown's beads were cool against her forehead. Her mother's headscarf lay under them, invisible but present. The Oba placed a short staff in her palm. "Build," he said simply. Guards parted the crowd. Morenike and Simi stood there, stiff as posts. Protocol demanded it. The steward guided them closer. Morenike's chin trembled. For the first time, Aderonke saw fear, not malice, in her eyes. The steward's voice carried, "All kneel to greet the queen." Morenike's knees resisted, then bent. Her head lowered to the earth. Simi followed, tears leaking. The palace stilled. Aderonke's voice did not shake. "Lady Morenike, your months of service in the palace kitchens will continue by your own request, I hope. Let us redeem what can be redeemed." Morenike nodded humbly. Mama Tayo lifted her spoon in triumph. The Oba leaned in. "Storms don't last," he murmured. Aderonke smiled through fresh tears. "No," she said, lifting the staff. "But while they rage, we will be the roof." And somewhere in the crowd, a little girl rubbed soot from her hands and watched the ash girl become queen, learning that mercy is a kind of crown.